Hello, guys. This is A Space for Questions, podcast number 2. And I am putting this pre-recorded or otherwise separately recorded intro at the start of this one because this is a conversation I had with the amazing Laila Edge, who is a part of our Facebook page, and incredibly inspiring. Just look at some of her engagement against the posts and you'll really see that she sees the world in a wonderfully beautiful way. Now, Laila and I started this conversation with the intention of discussing one thing, and within the first 5 or 10 minutes we just picked up into this conversation, which evolved into something ever more beautiful than we could have possibly pre-scheduled. So the question then turned into, through just the evolution of conversation, what does it mean to work hard in the modern day? We then explored this in a number of different ways, and the conversation went on for quite some time. It was beautiful. Thank you again, Laila. But I just wanted to give you this frame because when the conversation starts, we get sort of 10-15 minutes in and say, hey, this would be a great thing to talk about. So it was quite organic. So just wanted to give you guys this frame so you know what you're going into. I really, really hope you enjoy it, and thank you so much for watching. Hit the subscribe button and tune in for more in the future.
Hey,
Hey,
how are you doing?
you're in my ears. That's cool. Oh, wow.
You're in my ears. That's cool. That's probably the best response I've ever had to joining a video call. How are you?
I'm a little bit, yeah, it's morning. I feel like it's morning, if that makes sense. So I'm a little bit like, okay, I'm still in my happy little bubble and world. And all of a sudden, yes, okay.
I feel kind of the same as I switched the video on because I was like, my eyes feel so heavy right now. And I switched the video on just to look how I looked. And I thought, yeah, I look like I've been clubbing all night. You know, that's like, good. So I'll probably sit like back here so you can't really see anything. And now I'm laughing and I'm making them water, and it's just making the whole situation worse. So how was your
Wait, I make you cry within 2 minutes of your own podcast. I feel, yeah, it's
that's what he said. Was it Parkinson? Parkinson always had that gift, couldn't he? Every guest he just made them cry. Maybe this could be your gift. Maybe your gift is just to get people there. Wow, my eyes are watering. It's insane. Anyway, so enough about me and my crying sensitivities. How was your Friday night? How was your entry into the weekend?
It's funny after doing because I don't do the 9 to 5 anymore. I don't feel the weekend the same way. I don't know about you, but you know,
You go from 9 to 5 to 24/7, basically.
Yes,
That's
yes,
how your structure goes.
Yeah, and it's like, do you not differentiate when you're dealing with your business or when you're you know, having your free leisure time? And it's like, well, actually, they kind of go into one.
Yeah.
In one way, you know,
Yeah.
it's not one of the, you know, there isn't that clear, I'm going to work now or I'm going to, yes, of course, I'm being more disciplined in trying to achieve some sort of outcome when I'm dealing with clients, but I don't know, I just there's more integration, I think, now than when I went commuting to work for 9 o'clock start.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I saw a video. Do you know a YouTuber called Teal Swan?
No.
You familiar with Teal Swan? Really, really, really amazing. She's worth looking for. She has a great way of explaining, and she has the gift of taking very kind of normally esoteric, more Eastern philosophies and just delivering them in a way that's so easy to absorb. And she has this one called fuck balance. Okay, and she talks about balance being the thing that, you know, in spirituality and spiritual circles that everybody talks about, but integration, as she said, is where the real power is, because being able to integrate into your life is the true way to create symbiosis. If you're just trying to balance separate things, then you're always moving from one thing to the next. And I get the same thing as you, because the big motivator for me in setting up my business was the fact that I was living in St. Albans, just outside of London. I'm not sure if you know it. And I was commuting every single day into my office on the cusp of Moorgate and Shoreditch into there and out there in the evening. So I had 1 hour in, 1 hour out. So I had 10 hours of travel every week, which is 40 hours a month. Now that hit me that for a working week, I was sitting on a train. Like 40 hours, that's insane. But the big killer was the fact that I just my obviously I just become a father, and in the morning I would leave the house at like 6:30. In the evening I get back at 7:30, and I'd maybe see the kids for 30 minutes
Yeah.
Monday to Friday, and then the weekend would come and it would be like I'd be with the kids then, but
Yeah.
there wouldn't be the ability. I didn't have then. It didn't feel like I could enjoy it as much because I was always feeling like I was playing catch up.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So yeah. So now I'm the same as you. I have this life where work kind of just never stops, like kind of. But also, what's lovely is randomly, like in the middle of work, like my daughter can just come in and just sit on my lap, or my son will come in and bring me something like, and that's nice. It kind of the integration goes both ways, but work permeates into the evening and stuff, but then the other aspects of your life permeate into your working practice. So I think it's got a nice yeah, I think it works well. I say
Well, the
this now.
experience, yeah, but the experience is different, and I think it feels more purposeful in a
Yes.
way,
Yes.
and you are there then. You are not just there in physical body, but actually you're much more present in their field, almost. Yeah, that
Absolutely.
is here.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's such an amazing, I think, such an amazing lesson because your children do what you do, not what you say, when they're
Yes.
learning. And if they see this kind of work ethic, because to work hard is not inherently unhealthy, but you can easily have an unhealthy working habit, I think. Do you know what I mean?
So the work hard is oh, it's such a big topic because I think that is the one thing that everyone bought into and not question what that actually means. Because
Yes.
work
Completely.
hard, the definition of it, we don't, the results that we get is because we work hard.
Mm,
That's what we're taught at school. You got to work hard to get your grades. You got to work hard to achieve the things that you want. You have to work hard to deserve the success that you got. Otherwise, it's meaningless.
mm,
And it's not the not work hard. It's the fact that we cannot allow ourselves other methods of achieving the
mm.
things that we want. That
Yeah.
means that we burn out because we have to work hard.
Yes. And do you know, when I worked in the city, I saw um, working hard and kind of breaking yourself to
Yeah,
get to a result, even if you didn't get there, was just seen as a badge of honor.
yeah,
It really, really was. I'm the
yes.
first one in the office. I'm the last one out. I haven't seen my wife in 6 months because I haven't left the office. The more extreme it got, the more people were like, man, that guy is committed. That guy is super committed to selling photocopiers.
No,
Like everyone
that,
gathered around, like he's saving the world. Like,
yes, yes.
like,
But the same thing with mums, working mums or stay-at-home mums. It doesn't matter. But for some reason, mums or parents need to feel like, oh, it's such a hard thing, but it's worth it. We're doing this for our kids, but we're
yeah.
stressed out and we're burnt out. We're doing all these things to create the memories, and then it's like, but it's worth it. No, not
Mm.
if you're actually being grumpy and shit to your kids and to the world because you haven't had enough sleep because you're thinking from your reptilian brain as opposed to your neocortex. It's like, why are we not willing to be able to say, hey, I'm open for an effortless life,
Mm.
where I can actually make the same kind of impact without hurting myself. It's like we
Yeah.
have to hurt ourselves in order to feel like we've made the impact that we need to do. There's been
Yeah.
that sacrifice.
It's crazy, isn't it? There seems to be a nobility in it. You're so absolutely right. I actually think this, what does it mean to work hard in the modern day, is actually maybe a better question than the one we led in with, because this has kind of naturally just come out of nowhere, and I think this has got so much scope. But just to kind of stay with this, it almost feels like a bit of a safety net as
Yes.
well, because if you don't succeed, well, at least I tried my best. Well, at least I worked hard. Well, we can't knock him because, he worked really hard to achieve that failure. Like, it kind of feels like there's that. And again, in the city, when I was, the city for me was the biggest example of unhealthy working habits. People just have no work-life balance. And I say people, that's a big generalization. 80% of the people I personally worked with had no healthy work-life balance. And
But
yeah,
there
there
is
was.
no such thing like balance. Again, look. I'm of the opinion what really, really helped me in the last couple of years was the realization that nobody's living my life apart from me.
Mm,
And I was taking life so seriously because of a number of stories and conditioning that I had in my past. And I believed in them so much. And then if you turn it around and you go, well, actually, what do I want my grandkids to say about me? What do I want to say that I've experienced in my life when I'm 85? What stories do I want to tell? And you start with that end in mind. Because actually, there's only one destination we're going to, and
mm,
that's death.
mm,
Yeah, I can travel around the world. I can maybe soon I'll be able to travel in space, but you know what? There's still only one destination that
mm.
this human body can go to, and that is death. And
Yeah.
if that's the case, then what's holding us back?
Mm. And do you know what? A thought like that, when you visit that thought in the moment, it is liberating. It really,
Yes,
really is. It really, really is. It releases you, I think, of well, when I hold that in my mind, it detaches me from the importance of the non-important, if it
yes,
makes sense.
yes. And then all of a sudden it becomes, oh, okay, in that case, I want to try a medley of things rather than just doing my 9 to 5 every day.
Mm, mm,
I want to actually expand my world but again it depends on what people believe is right and true for them in their lives
mm,
and unfortunately we I would say for a lot of my life I was in a trance. I thought I was in control. I was very happy. I was very happy doing what everyone else was doing and felt was normal. But I was living in a trance because I wasn't really awake to my own potential
mm,
and actually what could be created and what would be possible. And it wasn't until I had my son, Oscar, who's now 5, that I kind of went into, well, you know what do I want to, you know, what do I want to teach him? Because as a responsible
mm.
parent, I need to teach him something. And even that kind of thing was kind of like a bit self-delusionary. Um, and then I realized that actually I want to show him. I don't want to just tell him that anything is possible. I want to show him that things are possible.
Mm,
And if that's the case, I can't tell him that. I gotta show him that.
mm, mm,
And all of a sudden, it opened up the whole questioning within me. And by the way, thank you for inviting me into your
mm,
Facebook group. But that's the whole point. You start asking different questions, and all of a sudden,
mm.
you go on a very different trajectory. And that's when I come to realize very quickly that actually Oscar was teaching me stuff,
Mm.
not the other way around. You
Mm,
know, and it's awesome. It's absolutely yeah. It really is. It creates this. Oh wow, I can see in a different way. But what's holding me back?
mm.
Oh, it's this, it's that. I can't do it because I got to earn this. I have this lifestyle. You know, I can't possibly move. I'm no good. I don't deserve this. Whatever stories we have that we choose to keep to hold us back because we feel like that's the bubble I need to be in to stay in control.
Yeah, absolutely. So much of what you just said resonates, and we've got Oscar is a similar age to Oliver, my son. just in
Yeah.
case you know who Oliver was. Who's this Oliver guy you'd speak to? He turned 6 2 months ago, so a similar age, and that really was kind of my catalyst for change. Because prior to Oliver being born, I think I'd kind of just accepted the programming, the
Yes.
societal programming, and I was just, in retrospect, I was never really happy in it. There was always inner conflict, but we grew up in a society, and especially kind of in the area that I grew up in as a guy, it wasn't really acceptable to say, "Oh, I'm feeling unhappy." I'm not connected to my heart here. You would have been laughed at. You'd have been sent away,
Yeah.
banished. Maybe not that extreme, but you get my point. And um, so I had this kind of big inner conflict, and there was, I would say, probably from about spring 2014, I want to say. So Oliver was maybe a year or two old. And I had got to this point where, again, I was asking myself that same question: what am I going to teach? And the big thing for me was I had no concept of what happens beyond the physical realm, what happens beyond this life. Any kind of afterlife, it had never been something that I'd grown up with. And I kind of went on this 18-month journey of exploration where I went to sermons and speakings and teachings from every different main organized faith. And I was actively looking, and in all of these situations I found such authenticity. Like, people really were connecting to something in those moments, and I was there with them. And I cried when this guy was telling a story about Jesus, and then I cried in the next guy's thing, and then there was this situation in a mosque where I completely broke down. And I had all these really, what felt like, amazingly authentic experiences. And I kind of got to a point where I realized, hey, these guys are authentically connecting with something, but then they're all telling the other one that they're doing it completely wrong. Like, I'm like, you're kind of doing the same thing in a slightly different way, and then you're bitching it to each other about it. So it kind of lost me in that moment. Um, but it was that feeling that there was something bigger. The universe was a far bigger place than I had grown up thinking it was, and it was kind of, I felt like a duty or an obligation to kind of go out there and find it, and work with my son. It's exactly as you say, though. I had this experience. So I'd gone through all this, and then I found Peter Sage's work. He opened me onto a more kind of spiritual path, let's say. And then that's evolved and evolved and evolved, and my life has shifted significantly since then. But there was a real moment when I was on a plant medicine retreat in Ibiza, so ayahuasca, mushrooms, and bits like this. And there was a mushroom ceremony, and mushrooms quite playful. And we had these beautiful, huge, sprawling grounds with like olive groves and stuff in the middle. It was spectacular. And partway through the night, I'm kind of out in the back of the grounds, and I'm near the pool, and I'm just kind of released into the energies, completely surrendered to wherever my body wants to go. And I kind of get this observer sensation where I kind of step back from my body and see what I'm doing. And in that moment, I'm on the floor, like knees up like this, kind of really like on the floor like a child, and I'm kind of playing with the ground. And in my state, I could kind of see these kind of energetic waves sitting around everything, and I could see kind of a pulse of the universe. And as I was
Wow.
picking it up, it was like I was playing with it. Anyway, the observer sensation, I stepped back and I looked at myself, and I just looked like a child when they're sitting there seemingly playing with nothing,
Yeah.
but they're not playing with nothing. They've got less filters or whatever, or they're seeing
Yeah.
something in the spectrum of light that we're simply not seeing. And in that moment, I was like, just had this. It's like a lightning bolt hitting me. It was. They have so many less filters. They can see so much more of what is around them, and they're so much more aware of it that they have to be the greatest teachers.
Yeah.
Their awareness. And the thing is as well, when a child learns, they learn from play. There's no
Yes.
expectation, there's no pressure. It's just the enjoyment. And what's interesting, we come back to hard work. What does hard work mean? What I find is quite interesting is a child can go and play for like 20 hours solidly, full pace, like 7 days a week, and learn more than we could in a month of learning,
Yes.
and not feel any fatigue or anything, and just go with it.
And I think that's the thing. We confuse hard work with focus. It's the focused attention to something that creates the result that we want,
Yeah.
not hard work. You
Mm.
know, or the definition of the normal definition in society of what hard work is. So somebody will look at me and say, well, you're working hard, because they can see me being in front of the computer or whatever. But actually, because I'm enjoying myself and I'm just happen to be focused, I don't experience it as hard work.
Mm.
You know, and then people will say, well, that's not hard work, you're in front of the computer in the cafe, and you know, but somebody who's in a mine and you know, working, grafting, that's hard work. So everyone's definition of hard work is very, very different, but the point is the energy around the words hard work or hard working has taken an interesting framing around it, where that, as you said, the badge of honor, yes, hardworking, but it's the one way of using so much energy and effort, and using what I think is the I'm not a neuroscientist, but you know, the accessing the brain, the parts of the brain that isn't the most efficient.
Mm-hmm.
So focused attention is different, because what you're saying here is that you have either something you want to create or a problem to solve, and you look at it and you relax in the moment and you just go, okay, well, you know what? I would like to go to Sweden over Christmas. Okay, what do I need to get there? Okay, well, I need so much money, I need to have this. Okay, fine. Let's see what happens. You know, allowing things to actually then occur in front of you to help you get there.
Yeah.
So maybe I get a client that actually tells me, actually, I want you to come over to Stockholm over this time. And all of a sudden, see, I just told you it was just going to happen.
Yeah, and you know, I think this is a nice area to wander into with this, because, and this is only coming from personal experience, but when I look at those times, when I have been caught up being busy, if you know what I mean, just kind of filling the hours with activity, thinking that I'm being productive, it has come more from force. You know, there has definitely been more attempted control around it, and I think that perception of being in control of everything kind of then lends itself to thinking I must work really, really hard, because if I'm in control of everything, nothing's going to happen without me.
Yes,
I
that's
have
exactly
to
it.
here, otherwise it's not going to happen. Whereas, as we know, and I've seen this from your post, I mean, the event you recently set up.
Yes.
I mean, this was pure flow. Had you tried to force every step of that, that might have taken you 12 months more to actually create something like that. But
I know,
because you're
and I
in
know.
flow.
Yes, and that's exactly where I wanted to come to, because I never really understood. It was just so awesome. I know I say that a lot, but really, really, just 4 weeks beforehand, I basically said, okay, I want to set up this event. It's going to happen on this day. Who's with me? You know, and it really just, here's an intent. I want this to happen. And there's a quote which is talking about, until you're committed, you know, until you're truly, truly committed to something and aligned to it, then actually that's the moment when providence moves to. That's the moment when you will have the things coming to you that will allow it to happen. And it was absolutely perfect in the sense of the people I wanted to have collaborating with were there.
Yeah.
They did it for free. You know, the people that attended were the people that got it. You know, and it wasn't about. Yes, of course, I created a plan. You know, a piece of paper of, okay, well, it would be great if we could have this and so on. but I wasn't dictated by the plan. It was more, what is it that we want to achieve afterwards? We wanted people to come out of that feeling like, oh my God, yes, that was a really awesome event, because we were hands-on, seeing different things of what you could do with technology, and we got people excited. You know, the collaborators felt like they actually contributed to something that was bigger than themselves. I felt like I was able to do what I'm good at, which is pulling people and resources together to make something happen.
Yeah.
And I got to see that actually there's different ways of doing it, not the old way that I used to do with force, with the Gantt charts and project management tools and whatever. It's just, you know what, just go out there and say what you want. And then if you get the feedback that actually people are not getting it, okay, don't take it personally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
just
and do you know what? Here's the thing. I think that realization is so amazing because everything gets so much easier. Like we
yes,
make it so difficult for ourselves. Like I have to control everything, and we build this huge amount of pressure around it. Whereas that's the least efficient way to do it. The most efficient way to do it is surrendering, just be given everything you need. And I think for a lot of people, that concept is so too good to be true, kind of thing. What, I'm just gonna? I can't do that. That's negligent, But it really does happen. And I mean, tell me a bit more about the event, kind of how it went, and what inspired you initially to kind of create it.
I guess for me, it's, I think my whole life has really been about change in some way or form, and managing change. And I say manage change because that's the mindset I was in. Whether it's, being an organization and then releasing new products to people, then we have to manage people's expectations and those kind of things. Or if we're making people to do something slightly different, a different process, then we need to manage that.
Mm,
And it didn't occur to me that I felt like there was a glass ceiling. I didn't get promoted. I was unhappy because I felt like, you know what, I worked hard. I deserve a promotion.
mm,
Why am I not getting any further? I'm bored. And of course, it didn't occur to me until a few years ago that actually look inside of me. It isn't about the qualifications. It wasn't about the degrees. It was all about how I was thinking and what was holding me back.
mm,
And I thought, well, no, this is how I'm wired. This is how this is the right way.
mm,
And then by going on that journey, and Peter Sage's event was one of the first catalysts. But things that I was, funny enough, subconsciously doing to myself to kind of go, no, you're not pushing yourself out of your own boundary, Laila.
mm,
You got to abseil down, Spinnaker Tower, even though you're afraid of heights.
mm,
You've got to go out diving, even though you're afraid of water. You've got to do all of these things, Laila, for some reason. That was always pushing me.
mm,
And yet I was going with, but I crave control. I crave control in that, you know,
mm,
normal way and fitting in. And I think the one word that came after me after the seminar we met at was unapologetic
mm,
for me. So for me, it was literally, I've been hiding out. I have really been accommodating, playing small. Nobody would have said that, Nobody would have met me then and said, oh yeah, Laila's a shy, retiring wallflower. But there was a different energy around this where I kind of realized that actually I am accommodating because I'm afraid of sticking out too much.
mm.
And I guess that's when hell broke loose. But because as soon as I did that, it was like, okay, well, what do I want to do? And you start exploring, and there was at one stage it was, who am I? And I came to this conclusion: I know who I am, and I felt really happy. And it was like, yes, I'm on top of everything again, and it's great. And then I got some kind of knockback, and life would say, no. And then it's like, it's not who I am. Who do I want to be? It's who I want to be. and then, and at every stage, it was almost like that whole, I got it. I know it. I got it. You're laughing because I think you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, you got it. I got it. I know what it is all about.
I'm laughing at that human need to kind of reach an end state or reach the goal. I'm there. I've achieved. I'm home. That's
yes.
Well, and the thing is, you opened the conversation by saying, you know, the only real destination that we're all going to is life. You know, so why try to label or encapsulate anything else as your final destination until you get there, because you know this is only another step on the journey.
Right. So life becomes almost a way of, okay, well, let's see how long we can live for. So it's about managing risk, right? And I say managing risk in the sense of, it's not about staying safe, but it's not abseiling without the safety equipment. It's not, you know.
I agree. And the thing is, I think there's a piece of writing which I enjoy, which talks about the modern day warrior, and it talks about the modern day warrior not being recklessly courageous, but just following, you know, the flavor of their heart and the voice of their conscience, and, you know, doing that in the moment and not worrying about what other people think, but dancing to the song they can hear. And I think this is it, isn't it? It's not about, you know, it's about taking risks in life, but it's not about taking needless risks and just being reckless with things. Well, not for me anyway. I'm sure there's some people out there that is their truth, and, you know, that's going to get them to where they need to go to. But I think as a general rule, I think that's what it is, isn't it?
Well, I think if you want to increase the probability for the results that you want in life, then prepare yourself by looking what other people have done and learn from their lessons, or don't do that and learn your own lessons, because that's how you need to learn. It's all fine. It's all good. It's all fine. But if we want to, so it's not about control, but it's maybe understanding more the apparent randomness of life, you know, and understanding that actually that whole notion that the reality you live in is something that you create on the inner, as opposed to trying to control other people and other events so that it happens, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I could have created the event that I did in 4 weeks' time by throwing a lot of money on it. You know, I could have called up the people and said, look, 100K, you can come in, you can stand there, you just need to be there for 3 hours, we're going to pay you. You know, I could have made it happen in different ways, but I wouldn't have had the experience, the sensation of actually having like-minded people who were passionate about a subject come together in the way that I did, and having the magic of life. And now we're talking about the other side of managing risk, which is actually maximizing creativity, actually exploring what it is that we could do if we allowed ourselves to imagine and just be more free, as you were talking about before.
This is actually a beautiful point, because again, let's look at your two different avenues with this. One being polarity, which is what you did, you let everything come to you, and the other option being pursuit, chucking money at something. And, you know, if you do it that way, by if we look at the way our minds work, you start chucking money into something, you want to be absolutely sure where it's going to go. If I'm going to put my money into this, it has to go in this direction. And then once you label it and structure it as one thing, it then can't become anything else. So it can't evolve in its own way. It's kind of like planting a seed and then building a certain shaped box for the plant to go through. You're not letting nature be nature. You're sending it in only one direction.
And it's fine. There's no good or bad in this. It's just a different way of experiencing life. So if you're more of an adventurer and want to be more adventurous about what it is that you could possibly achieve, then exploring and then doing the way that I just mentioned, the way I did it, lends more to that experience. If you want to have a more certainty and you place your importance on the expectation that this is going to happen because I've got the contract here and you signed it, I paid you, it's transactional. Different energy, you can get the result, but you're not going to get the experience and the magic that I felt by kind of going, oh my God, everyone came together. What are they here?
It actually worked. I'm standing. I bet you kind of still turned up on the day, didn't you, and thought, is anyone going to come here? Well, happened too easily.
that was the thing, because I think that was the thinking, and that's the difference between the thinking and the knowing. So I wasn't thinking, are people going to turn up? I just knew that we were going to have an event and we were going to do the utmost to make our message to come true, and deliver it the best way that we could with the resources that we had, with the skills that we had. And yes, it was that magic. Life became magical because that allowance. But 5 years ago, I suddenly would have gone, okay, well, we're signing a contract, we're going to do this, then this is what people are going to assign to up to, and we're paying for. So, but I think that's where the disappointment also comes in. You don't appreciate what you expect. There's no appreciation in expectation.
No, there really isn't, is there? Because I think when you confine something and create limitations around it in such a way, you kind of set what you perceive to be the best case scenario. Anything else is almost failure from that point. So you almost set a bar that you have to reach. You kind of cap out your top end potential, but you still leave this whole space of less, essentially.
Yes.
So what's interesting, I think, is this was obviously, well, I say obviously, the way that I experience things is I find that when we're doing something that I believe we should be doing, that's in line with our purpose, the path opens up before us, doors open, whatever it may be. So what was the nature of what you were doing at this event? What was the purpose of the event? And do you think that it was inherently intertwined with your greater life purpose in any way? Do you think this is why you were, you kind of surfed through it with such grace? Or I say grace, I don't know if it was all completely graceful. I'm sure you were like a swan with your feet going crazy underneath and looking graceful on top.
Well, I think that's what I'm saying. Rather than trying to control everything that was going on outwardly by controlling people or events or things, I was actually controlling my own state, my own inner state, and going, no, just trust in your own message, trust in what it is that you're wanting to create. And there is a detachment, by the way, in this, because that's what I was saying to you about, some of the people I spoke to early on, they were like, we don't get what it is that you want to create. And I could have taken that and say, oh shit, I'm no good, this is not working, it's not going to happen. I could have taken it very personally, and instead it went into, okay, what did I say, or how did I come across, or what energy did I use, or who was I targeting that didn't make it happen? It's like, it's easy. You want to lose weight? It's easy, right? It is easy. Yet a lot of people cannot make it happen. Want to build muscles? It's easy. You go to the gym, you work, you focus your attention on it. Why do people not achieve it? Because they get distracted. They're not, and they take it personally. Oh, I'm not any good. I might as well have that last that midnight sandwich instead. Uh, so part of our life becomes that whole the social conditioning, the way we've been brought up, that programming. We just need to detach ourselves from that programming if it is that we want to achieve something in life that we haven't been able to achieve or experience.
Yeah, because your programming is based on current experiences, so it's kind of like the thing of doing what you've always done, getting what you've always got.
Yes, or rather, we have been brought up by our parents' insecurities and their reactions to them. How do I know this? Because I do it. What do I say to Oscar when he runs off and he's trying to explore the big wide world? Be careful. Shit. Don't fall.
Yeah.
That I know full well that I am Oscar's boundaries in physical form. When he grows up, that inner voice that he will have is unfortunately going to be my dulcet tones. So in a way, what all I can do, but I got to tell him to be careful because he could trip. Yeah, because I can see there's leaves and it's slippery over there, and I have the experience to say, be careful. But he is the one that experiences my advice to him in the way that he wants to do it. So he might be actually applying that be careful to everything in life. Not just when you're running on slippery, wet leaves. And if that's the case, I can't tell him. He has to experience that. That's what he has to learn in his life. And it's not my responsibility. I can't do anything about it.
No.
But what I can do is teach him that, you know what, when mommy brought you up, she was being real. She wasn't being perfect. There is no way that I could have brought you up to be a X, Y, Z, or whatever it is that you want to achieve in your life or what you think is your purpose. You have to do it yourself. That's your experience in your life. Yeah. And yet we have so many people that are parents that think that, you know what, I'm a crap mom or I'm a crap dad unless I get him to private school, unless I get him to, whatever it is that we feel is the badge of I'm a good parent. I go back to Oscar quite a lot because that is how I discovered how I myself got programmed. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, do you know what? I now understand that I've always been programmed to push boundaries. Now I have a choice. Do I want to carry on with that programming? Does it serve me in what it is that I want to do? If what I want to do is actually be like everyone else in a stable home I'll say stable home, that's not right, but in a 9-to-5 job in an organization, in a normal family unit kind of thing, then I would have said, I got to reprogram myself not to push boundaries. I got to I got to learn to program myself to be happy with just doing the 9-to-5 and finding solace and peace with that and accept that. So, and that is a perfectly acceptable way of living.
Yes.
And it's fine. Yes. But I've chosen the path of actually pushing every freaking boundary I can.
I think you'd be bored if you didn't, wouldn't you?
Yes, that's what I come to the conclusion of. That it's kind of like, okay, so it's not about being wise. It's about having the freedom of choice of saying, do you know what? I understand why I got to where I got to. I understand the story that I heard, that I told myself that yeah, I choose to now follow that.
Yeah.
I heard somebody say about me that I had an ability to see the best in people. And I took from that and went, wow, that's such a nice thing to say. I really like that. I really like that image of me being able to get people to feel like they could do more. And if that's resonating with me and I really like that, then okay, fine. Then let me carry on doing that.
Mm.
Some people have more resonate, and some people resonate more with, okay, well, get people to accept themselves as they are right now in this moment, and then they will focus on that. And there's a place for that too,
Mm.
because you have to accept yourself in order to actually successfully, I think, push boundaries and feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by unapologetic. That was a big thing for me. It was sort of like, well, I've been hiding out. Why have I been doing that? Because I felt like I'm stuck out.
Yeah.
I, I had, just by me being me for the last 42 years, I always stick out. I mean, I look like I do, and I say I'm Swedish. Just that story will go, people will go, why are you making me wrong? You are not Swedish. You do not look Swedish. Yeah. And they're not going to say that to me, but that's what's going in their heads.
Mm.
And I spent a long, long time trying to convince them very hard that they were wrong. And that became my existence. But I was trying to do it in such an accommodating way, not by forcefully going, yeah, I'm Swedish. It was more like whenever I went into a pub with my ex, I would always try to talk as quickly as possible so that they could hear that I could speak English.
Yeah.
So that my husband wouldn't feel like, oh, he's got a mail order bride.
Wow.
That kind of perception that, oh, wait, where did you get her from?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
unfortunately, you got that stereotype. I would make sure that I was working hard so that I got the material success, so that I was driving the convertible, so I was driving the nice cars, and having the nice house, so that people could see that, I'm a professional.
Mm.
Because I wanted to prove that I wasn't what people think that I am.
Mm.
But I was trying so hard in proving that I lost the sense of me. And I spent so much energy on that I mean, I appreciate my backstory is slightly different from other people, but how many times have we not tried to prove to others that we are something that actually maybe we're truly not wanting to be?
Yeah, and do you know what? I think while the finer details of your story may be different from others, I think this is something that I think it's something that everybody at one point or another in their life will experience or will live through. Whether they have the awareness to observe that's what's going on is a different question, I think. But the the thing of spending all your time and energy proving that you are or are not a certain thing, and
Yeah.
that time and energy spent actually becoming a block to you actually connecting with what you truly are, like kind of pushing the envelope for this perception of you, which probably doesn't serve. I mean, it's nice to drive a nice car, it's nice to have those successes, but at the same time, if the motivation for doing them is just to pacify other people's first reaction to you, then it's
Yes.
not coming from a place of really
No.
creating contentment in your life in any way, is it?
No. But equally, like I said, it's not that is wrong. It's just a
Mm.
way of life
And I think we
that
have
served
stages
me.
as well, don't we? Like, I mean, that, yeah, exactly. That served you. I mean, if I look at my time in the city, a lot of, I wouldn't want to recreate the behaviors or activities from them, but my ability to live my life in the way that I want to live it now is dramatically enhanced because of those years
Yes.
and because of what I learned in those years. So I think we have phases and levels. And, you kind of have to go through high school before you can get to university. You just kind of have to do it. It doesn't mean high school is better than university or worse than university. It's just a different stage in the game.
And I think ultimately, you know, if a final destination is death, then what we're going through our life is merely an expression.
Mm.
It actually isn't personal. Everything that
No.
happens isn't personal. It's just as a consequence of the choices that we make.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not the conscious choices necessarily, it's the subconscious choices because of the programming and so on. So
Yeah.
now we get back into, okay, fine. We can either allow things to happen in a way that we just be, or because there are certain results that I want to see in my life and I want to experience, then actually I want to be doing it in a more graceful way. So the reason why perhaps internally I didn't feel so the event I created, it didn't necessarily feel as polished for me internally. It was, the end result
Yeah.
was. It's only because I'm a beginner at this new method.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, is it because you hadn't gone through that process yet, and or was it because there was still a part of you which wanted to control things at a greater level, and because you hadn't observed that,
Both.
like, yeah, okay,
Both, because this is why, you know, I'm 42 years old. I've had a lot of programming where, you know, I've learned, oh, no, I got to do this. And then it's like, oh, that triggered me to do this. And is that what I want to do? So everything becomes more conscious and becomes actually more slower. It's like learning how to drive,
mm.
right? Do you drive a clutch car?
Mhm.
Yes. Well, try to if you spend 20 years driving a clutch car, try to explain to somebody how to drive a clutch car. Is
Mm.
actually very, very difficult.
Yeah,
You know, because it's automatic
yeah,
in your head. And I guess that's the thing for me. Is very much about okay. There's a tendency when we feel like, oh, this is not going as smooth as I want to, or it's not exactly what I expected. We give up then, because again, it's not following expectations as opposed to experience. You know, we're focusing on expectation as opposed to, hey, this is an interesting experience.
mm.
Okay, I didn't know I had these feelings. I didn't know
Mm.
that I could experience these feelings. What triggered it off? What can I do? What would I like to experience in the future? Like I said, all of this is being deliberate about creating a result or an experience in your life.
Mm.
I'm not saying that you have to do this in any shape or form. I'm just saying this is how I've come to discover that there is a different way of actually attaining the things that you want.
Mm.
And it's funny when we were texting each other, you know, we're talking about Jedi, and it's like, yeah, I'd like to be Yoda, but I guess I know I'm a Padua. I'm still, you know, and I guess that's the thing. If we do that, then actually we expand our capacity to learn more.
Mm. Absolutely. And I'm intrigued now. When you were organizing the event, was there any point where you kind of stopped and said to yourself, oh, this is hard work? Was there ever that moment, or did it just kind
No,
of zip past and you got to the end and thought, well, that was all a bit easy? You know, where were you on that kind of perception of the process?
no. So I never used in my head, I never used the word easy, and I never used the word hard. So I think this is part of the words that we use in Western society: easy, hard, um, um, good, bad.
Mm.
You know, um, it's a result. If I hadn't gone out of my comfort zone to publish those videos both on Facebook and LinkedIn, then I wouldn't have gotten the awareness and the result, and people, you know, if I hadn't built the context explaining to people and pushed out of my comfort zone to say, look, this is something bigger than I'm used to doing, but I want your help on this. Can you help me? And they go, yeah, I want to help. And actually, that's the thing. People really wanted to help. I just needed to be more specific in my message. Because they just, I want to help, but how can I help? I don't know how to help. And I'm like, I don't know either. I just, I'm asking because that's a good question. Then I need to go back and actually try to figure out if I can get a better question or a better statement or purpose or message.
And you know what's interesting here as well? We come back to that expectation piece a moment ago. I think in my experience, when I've been too attached to the particular outcome, been trying to control a situation, there's less, for myself anyway, there was always less acceptance of something going off in a different direction, or even accepting that feedback and changing what you're doing. So in this instance, you're like, okay, I need to get more specific. Whereas when you're too attached to something, you might, it kind of clouds your judgment. I think, this feedback comes back and it can sometimes be perceived as, well, they don't get it. It's maybe not right for them. When really the gold in that feedback can help you to enhance everything moving forward. And I think that, when you get too attached to an outcome with something, it can affect the decision making in that way.
And a very simple example, if your happiness hinges on your partner taking out the rubbish, then you're going to place emphasis and importance on that. Well, he didn't take out the rubbish, therefore he doesn't love me and I'm unhappy. If you focus on the fact that you are happy together and you're feeling really good together, guess what? He's going to take out the rubbish anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so that's what I mean by how the method of you doing it. So of course you might have compliance from the husband because actually he kind of realized, well, she's not going to be happy unless you take out the rubbish.
Yeah, and it's that different way of, and again, I think whenever I look at this, it's I think in anything we do, we have a sponsoring thought. If we strip everything back and we go back to the very beginning point of where a thought's born from, it kind of comes from a place of love and fear. This is what every teacher's always told us. And I think is he going to take out the rubbish? Because if he doesn't love me, is a fear-based statement. He needs to be doing this action. Whereas I just love him, and if he takes the rubbish out, so be it. That's just pure love, and from love can only come love.
Yes. But then you can have the conversation about, do we want to live in a house where the rubbish is piling up?
Yeah. Yeah. If all of the love in the world just isn't getting the rubbish message across, then maybe you need to rethink.
Yeah. But again, that's about, but it doesn't hinge. It's not. It's that thing about unconditional expectations and conditional love and all of those. Unless he and I'm very much how should I put it, guilty in the past of this thinking of, you need to see me, you need to hear me, otherwise I don't exist. If you love me, you would have seen the effort and the thought process behind this. And unfortunately, I think in relationships, friendships as well as romantic relationships, we place that kind of, I don't exist unless you do this for me. There's condition around it. If you think the fact that, so I was born in Thailand. My mum was Thai. My dad is Swedish. And my mum died when they got divorced. So I was actually in Thailand with my mum. And then she died when I was 4. Now, my dad didn't have to actually come back for me, if that makes sense. I didn't see it as that, but he did come back for me, and then I grew up in Sweden and all that. But I remember, this is the story that has shaped a lot of my life experience, which was that my relatives in Thailand said, you have got an opportunity here, take it, because they're in rural Thailand. There's not a lot of opportunities there. All of a sudden, I'm being taken away to Sweden, and they could appreciate the fact that I would get other possibilities in life. Second thing that I also heard in that whole statement was be accommodating and compliant. Be a good girl, basically, and make sure that you do what people ask. So I was never really a rule breaker. So those two things in the same story was quite conflicting for me. You have an opportunity, and equally, make sure you fit in, make sure you don't break the rules. No wonder I'd been self-sabotaging for myself, and no wonder that I kind of had that whole thing of push myself and see how far I can get to, and actually try not to stick out too much. Try not to be controversial.
Yeah.
You know,
At
try to be
this
as vanilla as
absolute
possible.
pivotal part of your life where you're in those first 7 years and your programming for the rest of your life is being laid and those foundations are being put. That's, as you say, it's very conflicting advice, and it's not just being at that stage in your life, but with such significant change happening around you. I think it's natural for you at that point to take in even more of what's going on around you, because there's a disorientation, isn't there? Your whole world has shifted at this young, delicate, vulnerable age. You're being moved between completely different cultures. I mean, rural Thailand into Scandinavia. I mean, there's not many things that are the same. You know, there's so much difference there, culturally, geographically, with absolutely everything. So, yeah,
I
you can.
don't know whether this is my experience, right? And I appreciate mine is a very minority based experience, but I came from heat to snow, right? I remember experiencing snow, but I didn't experience it as being something frightful or it was just, wow, it snowed.
Yeah.
You know, that's all it is. You know, it's skiing. Okay, fine. You know, so there was kind of like an acceptance in me from there, and whatever I, you know. So for me, it was like, yeah, of course, anything is possible because I went from there to there. But then I had a very Western mindset from there on in. So what happened was that I kind of didn't see my roots, as it were, my roots, for a very, very long time. And it took 32 years before I actually went back to Thailand.
Wow.
So, and that was because of the story I told myself that I was not going to go to Thailand until I was married, and I was going to be married to a white guy because I didn't want to have a child that looked like me to experience the things that I went through, because
Oh,
I wanted
wow.
him to, so, you know, things I created my future. I
Yeah. Yeah.
created the experience. I got married. What happened? The year after, we went to Thailand. I didn't seek to find my family because I was actually afraid of doing that. But I did think that perhaps I will find them, in which case I'm going to bring all of my paperwork to prove who I am, you know, my mom's death certificate, blah, blah, blah. And long story short, we did actually find them. I had the paperwork in my hand, but they just came out of the house and they just grabbed me and gave me a big bear hug, and they basically said my name, and it was like, don't I have to prove who I am? Kind of thing. And the best thing was the fact that when we went into their house, they didn't know what had happened to me because there had been no contact, right? There were pictures of me as a baby on their wall.
Oh.
They had missed me for 32 years.
Oh.
And I had been living in my world, shutting them out deliberately because I was afraid. So there I am with my Western mindset, with the paperwork in my hand, and all they did was come out. And that to me was such an expression of unconditional love that I don't know what. And what happened immediately afterwards was the fact that I had Oscar.
You had.
Oscar.
Ah.
So, no, seriously. I had Oscar. after meeting my family in Thailand.
Oh well, like immediately after, like you gave up.
Yeah. Well, no, I wasn't. Sorry, I wasn't pregnant then. I became pregnant with Oscar afterwards,
Understood.
immediately afterwards. So it was just it was such but it. And then it took another 5 years until 3 weeks ago that I went to Thailand and met them again. And this time it was even more. We're talking about the whole flow thing. They don't speak English. so the little Facebook contact I had with them was literally just sending emojis or stickers, and it's like I have no idea what am I supposed to send them in my whole Western sort of thinking. For them it was easy. It was like, we found our daughter.
Oh. And I think that, yeah, it is. And you talk about the Western mindset as well. And I think if we look at the whole theme of our entire conversation, you kind of get this sense that in the West we have a habit of overcomplicating things. Whereas when you move further into the East, there's far more kind of connection to a knowing and just to a being. And
Yes.
they knew you arrived, and they knew they needed no paperwork. They needed nothing which was filed with the right registry and had the correct stamps signed by the right notary. They didn't need all of that. You turned up and they knew.
Yeah.
They knew either that, or your face hadn't changed in 32 years. But we'll have to get the baby pictures out to see if that one's true. But yeah, and I think it does come back to that, doesn't it? In the West, we have this need to overcomplicate things, and it almost does come from that need for justification. I think Western culture says that we need to justify, we need to prove who we are, whereas Eastern culture is more about, no, you are who you are. You just have to remember.
Yeah. Or we'll accept you as you are and want to show up as.
Yes,
It's a
even
very
more so,
different.
yes.
Yeah. And the trip that I did now 3 weeks ago, I was kind of like, okay, how do I do this? Because again, 3 years ago, I would have said, okay, I'm going to go there, but I'm not going to stay with them. I'm going to be in a hotel. I'm going to be safe. I'm going to feel like, I know where I'm staying, and I'm going to have a guide. I'm going to have a translator with me. I'm going to prepare for all eventualities that I could ever think of. And this time I just turned up with hand luggage and basically bought a ticket, and I basically said to them, is anyone going to pick me up, and can I stay with you? Now, like I said, if you'd known me 3 years ago, 5 years ago, that would have been, that's not Laila. That really isn't Laila. So I did that, and they were there. Of course they were there.
I bet they were delighted. I bet that was the best thing to have you go and actually stay with them, and rather than the hotel thing. I bet they adored that.
Well, the thing was, it wasn't the most luxurious place that when we saw them 5 years ago, it wasn't the most luxurious place, right? Rural Thailand, they had a house, and I was just thinking, okay, I'll just have to deal with whatever comes, okay? Because the purpose of this trip is really to get to know them, not me to try to impose my comfort needs on them. So thinking about, and my ex who was with me actually asked me the question, oh, are you staying at the hotel? Before I went, and I said, no, I'm staying with them. And he pulled a face, because the thing was that when we saw them, we actually stayed in the 5-star Shangri-La in Bangkok. So you couldn't have come from complete opposites, right? So he is very much a comfort creature. So it was kind of like he pulled the face. He didn't need to anything with it, but it was, for me, it was like, I get why, we moved on now. But getting there, they had a minivan that turned up. So it was a 2-hour drive, but it was the most comfortable minivan to sleep in, And then when we got there, the house that we'd seen before was still there, but then there was a shop, like a mini market, and then there was a very, shall we say, modern house that was nicer than I would say some of the houses that we have in the UK.
Awesome.
There, and they basically said, "Here's the bed. You can sleep in our air-conditioned bedroom." And it's like, okay, have you actually? Because I was kind of expecting
Yeah.
a mattress on the floor kind of thing, but no. And it was the most, like, the best bed ever. And they were so hospitable, and yeah, it wasn't the comfort that I'm used to seeing, but it certainly wasn't what some people probably would have termed as a shithole that
Yeah.
people would have expected. So for me, it was like, again, it's that trust.
Yeah.
I will be taken care of. I
Yeah.
knew I was going to be taken care of. In fact, oh, for God's sake, I put on about 5 kilos being there, but the food was just so absolutely delicious. And again, it was like 5 years ago, where are you preparing the food? Are you preparing it in
Mm.
in a clean environment where
Yeah.
all of those kind of things? And no, we were by the river. There were flies there. There were ants there. There were, but they ate the food. They cooked the food. The food was, not only delicious, but I didn't get sick.
Mm.
There was no need to sort of try to adjust with pills or whatever, or prepare. It was literally, that's it. There's a shower, there's every comfort that you needed, and air conditioning, and it was better equipped to handle the heat than people were able to handle heat in London, certainly a few
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, and do you know what's amazing is you talk about that kind of just surrender, accept, and go with. And it's crazy if we step back and we go, okay, so hold on a minute. You went there first time, you stayed in the 5-star hotel. As soon as you surrendered, you got there and they'd built an entire air-conditioned house for the trip. I mean, a house had been built in that period. I mean, that cannot, I cannot actually imagine bigger affirmation supporting the decision to surrender than a whole entire house was actually built for your visit. Well,
Thank you for that insight. I hadn't actually built that, but yes, you're right.
unbelievable, absolutely. And the thing is, it's the surrender thing is incredible. This pulls me back to just an example. As you know, I live in Tenerife,
Yes.
and when I decided, so it was 2016. Jan 2016, I set up my first company so I could work from anywhere. I started working from home in the UK, and we'd come on holiday to Tenerife. I had like a dim view of Tenerife because I thought it was all stag doos and drunk English people in the streets, which is like, I got here and found that that's like 1%, and the rest is like mountain ranges and the ocean. It's insane. So I kind of fell in love with the place. And then we came back to the UK, and I thought, I would love to move there. And I spent 2-3 hours sitting there figuring out plans, looking at this, looking at that, and making like zero progress, and just kind of getting to the point of, right, yeah, is it really wise to move my young family to a small island just off the coast of Western Africa? Like, is this wise? Yeah, I was looking at it from a different perspective. And then I thought, if let's just see what I want. And I remember I made a list of 15 things, like a manifestation list, 15 things that I wanted to be true in my reality. I used to live 100 yards from a beach, kids in private school, year-round sun, this, all these things that I thought, well, I'm going to need to earn X amount of money and do this and jump through these kind of hoops and everything else. And all I kind of did was put it into my visualization, and then surrender to the fact that that will either happen or something better will happen. But just totally gave in and surrendered. Now, then what happened was a series of different events, which as I was going through them didn't feel like they were leading to anything. I couldn't see the greater synchronicity at hand. I couldn't see the puppet master playing with the strings. And then we ended up being in Tenerife, and there was this moment when I sat in the garden, and in that moment I had a little doobie, and it was the first time I had for many, many weeks. And this just gave me an altered perspective for a short period of time. And I thought, hold on a minute. I made a list and I'm pretty sure like everything on that list is here. And I went back and I went running upstairs, well, staggering upstairs after the doobie, I must confess. Found this list of 15, came out, and everything had manifest into reality. Everything had come in because I just surrendered to the fact that if it's perfect and it's meant to be, it will be. And if not, then I'm guided and protected wherever I am, and I'll ultimately be taken to something better. But all 15 things came in. And I think it's just, I think that surrender just to accepting that you are guided, you are protected. You know, you don't need to break your back trying to work ridiculously hard. You don't need to force yourself into the 5-star Shangri-La so that you don't have to sleep on the floor. You know, you don't have to do these things. You just have to operate with love. You have to remember what's your motivator, what's your why, what's your passion, and then just accept that it might not be. But anything else more beautiful could be.
Yeah, and that is truly when you get that feeling of magic, isn't it?
Mm,
When you
mm.
feel like, you know what, that because it wasn't the expectation, it was the experience. And when things are happening that you didn't expect, then you know that you were expecting.
Yeah, yeah. Expectation is such an interesting one, isn't it? It's kind of fleeting in a way, because it's, you can be like, you know, I have no expectation, I'm living in the now, and then you can just kind of think about what that means for a second, and then you create yourself an expectation in that moment. So
Okay.
it's if you're sleeping awake, it's so easy to be pulled into expectation, isn't it? If you're remaining aware,
Yeah.
that's, I
And
think,
what helps me certainly is that there's a difference between knowing and expecting.
mm,
So that's what I was saying to you when you were
yeah,
asking me about the event. You know, no, I knew there was going to be an event. It's not
yeah,
expecting it. I knew there was going to be an event. It's a
yeah,
different energy and a certainty in that is more magnetic because it's through the being
mm,
as opposed to, you know, through the skin. So it's almost like expectation. It's like the skin of the fruit, but it's not the fruit.
mm,
The fruit, it's the experience which is inside. It's the flesh, it's the juice.
mm,
That's actually what you want, not the skin, mostly,
mm.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely a flesh guy when it comes to fruit. I agree with you on that example.
You know, and that's the thing when you come more from creating in the moment as opposed to preparing and going through in your head, what is it I'm going to say, what is it I'm going to do. Well, no, I'm going to let that happen because actually that's more effortless, it uses less energy, it becomes more creative, but I have a direction where I want to see a result, and this is the result I want to see.
Yeah,
And when that result doesn't actually happen, it's because not because of it's nothing personal. It's just feedback.
yeah,
It's just being able to then detach from the fact that it means the meanings that we love to make. Oh, it means that I'm crappy, so I'm useless, I'm no good. You know,
fill in the blank. Yeah.
yeah. And when we can see that actually nothing in life is personal without making it, oh, that means that you're not going to feel anything. No, on the contrary, it means that you're allowing yourself to feel more,
Mm,
even more. Because now you have a choice of the feelings that you want.
mm,
It's that. It's, you know, we can go different levels of how philosophical we can be, but the conversation that you and I have just had over the last, hour and 20 minutes, I never had them for a long time because people would have perceived me as strange.
mm. I still think you are kind of strange,
Yeah,
and I like
okay,
that
yeah,
about you.
yeah, yes, I am, but it's embracing that.
Yeah, embracing your strange.
Yes,
Amazing.
but you know what? Yeah, because actually, look at my history. I cannot fit in.
Mm.
There aren't that many half Swedish, half Thai people that live in a rural area in UK. Okay. My tribe is going to be very different, and
Mm.
it's going to be the people who resonate with wanting to push boundaries,
Yes.
yeah, as opposed
Mm.
to fitting in, and it's fine.
Yeah, and that's beautiful, infinitely beautiful. Um, so as we are, as we have, I think the ability, you and I, just to talk for the whole day, which may be something we have to schedule to do at some point, because that would be a great day. We are coming towards the end of our allocated time. So if you could conclude or summarize the conversation that we've just had, good luck with that, by the way, because we started with one question and who knows where we went. It was a great journey, though. How would you, if there was kind of a summary takeaway from the conversation that you wanted to leave?
Oh, well, actually, I'm going to turn that question back to you. What
Hmm.
do you feel like you got out of this conversation?
I feel I feel a deeper understanding and more clarity around authenticity to self, I think, in going through this, because one of the big things that we've revisited a few times here is how it's easy to slip into a behavioral pattern which is designed to which is designed with the good opinion of other people in mind. Whereas when we do that, then by default we're not following our heart's wish. We end up kind of doing things just for the just to please other people, and then we move away from what truly makes us content. So I think that's a big takeaway. Um, Second one, I guess, is that you're a super powerful manifester because you managed to build a house in rural Thailand with
Air
with
conditioned house.
an air-conditioned house with intention and serenity. I used to live in Thailand as well, so I know the rarity of an air-conditioned
Oh,
house in the rural areas. So yes, but no, I think that's probably my big takeaway from it. Probably a better clarity around that, and I think it's not like from an intellectual level and at some level of knowing I didn't have that within me before, but it's depths of understanding, I think. So for me, I kind of leave this call with a bit more clarity around that. So now I'm gonna back the question back to you again.
um, I think something that certainly helped me is understanding the whole thing about you mentioned about authenticity or being true to yourself or whatever. And the thing is, in truth, you make whatever you want true. So whatever
Mm,
you want to make it true, you are going to make it true. But it's connecting with it. So I guess that's what we call authenticity. And then
yeah.
it's having the leadership within yourself to be able to understand and create the results that you want in your life, as opposed to being the recipient. So that that's the other thing, because it's like I didn't it was hard for me growing up in some way because I'd never fitted in. And one of the things that we want to do when we grow up is fit in.
Mm,
And so I was doing things to make sure that I fitted in. And yet, if we grow up with that mentality of what we had when we were 7 or 12, then we never kind of grow. We never be able to contribute. We're kind of always victims to that programming.
yeah.
Okay, so if you're lucky and you happen to have sort of the programming that you want, then great. But some of us are then handicapped, effectively
Mm,
disabled in some way. So I'm kind of saying like, well, you know what? There were times in my life when I wanted to be more stereotypical, where I wanted to have made my life easier by not being so complicated and seeing nuances and making distinctions that other people don't do.
mm,
Simply I could never be racist,
Mm.
you know, for example, because look at me. And I never had that. And that became a bit of a handicap for me. I saw a bit of a handicap because my life never became simple.
Mm.
But then that created the stories that I had, the experience that I had. And actually now it becomes simple because I can use that to my advantage. So that whole kryptonite and superpower, what do we make out of it? The fact that you had the upbringing that you had actually creates the power for you.
Mm.
And it's
Yeah.
beautiful. And it's an expression. And that means that nothing is ever wasted.
Yeah.
So if we have the leadership in ourselves to be able to go, I'm going to choose that, I'm going to choose that, and that, and I'm going to create this result, and having that vision to see that result, I think that's
Beautiful.
powerful.
I think that is incredibly powerful. And I think it's a beautiful way to close the call. And I'm actually going to run the risk now. We don't have time to open another can of worms, but I just had a little observation that came to mind that I just had to throw out there. Like I say, we could talk all day quite easily.
Yes,
The final thing was as well, just again, we're just going back to 4-year-old you who has moved from one side of the planet to the other, quite literally from blazing heat and jungle to snow and
yeah,
cold. And it's just beautiful to see the acceptance at 4 years old, because again at that age you don't have these layers of requirement to label, expect and do anything. You just accepted the absolute polarity of these two different existences and just went with it.
yes,
The innocence of a child,
and
the innocent wisdom of a child.
and that expansion, that allows so many possibilities, as opposed to coming from this
Yeah,
viewpoint. That's what I'm talking about. And if there's some way that I can help people also see that those different perspectives, that's what I live for. That's what I want to do. And do it different ways.
beautiful. Layla, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for giving me like 90 minutes of your time this morning. It's been incredible, and um, I think that looking at this, I definitely think I'd love to catch up with you on a conversation like this again, and see how many questions we can cover on that one. But
I did say meander. We could meander very quickly.
I love a meander though, and the thing is that's kind of the whole purpose of a space for questions is to kind of start seeing these questions that we have as vehicles to go into areas of conversation that you might not have otherwise explored. So to conclude this, thank you, Layla. Amazing, and your input in the group and the videos and everything is beautiful. So long may it continue.
Thank you for allowing me to be here.
My pleasure.